You might ask why we're taking out this nice blue sink, but the truth is it has to go. We've asked Mike Lombardi, a master plumber, to show us how to pull it out the right way.
So the next part of the remodel is getting the sink out of the way, and we won't be using it again. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure the water is shut off. So we have two shut-off valves here that I can reach. In spite of their age, they're turning quite easily. And if these didn't hold water, you'd want to go down again and use the main shut-off valve. Okay, cold is done. Here comes the hot. A little bit harder to turn, but it is going off. Okay, so the valves are off. Now we'll make sure they're holding, and they are. There's no water. So we're going to go on to disconnecting the tubes that connect the valve to the bottom of the faucet. I have a special wrench for that. It's called a basin wrench. It's a special tool that will allow me to reach a nut that I couldn't get to with my hands. So it has this articulating, spring-loaded jaw on the end, and then a handle here for leverage. Okay, so I have the wrench, basin wrench up, engaged with the nut, and I'm going to turn it counterclockwise to loosen it. So these nuts are really tight up here, and the handle on the wrench isn't giving me enough leverage to loosen it. So I'm going to get my adjustable wrench to help me, and I'll adjust it to fit on the square stock of the wrench, and then with that, it'll give me a little more leverage to loosen the nut, and there it is. Perfect. Now it's loose enough. I can finish it with just the basin wrench. You can see how the spring on the end of that jaw keeps it tight against the square shoulders of that nut. Okay, I can finish that now with my hand. Okay, that's one disconnected. We're going to go to the hot now. And I'm able to get my wrench on the lower nut of that supply connector to the faucet. And I should be able to turn that. And I did. Yep, it's loose. Very good. So it takes a little patience to back this nut off. It had a little corrosion on it, which is typical. But the good thing is that the piping is round and the nut is actually cooperating. And once we get this loose, then we're going to go on to disconnecting the drain. Okay, there it is. We're going to disconnect the drain next, and because this is a very old-fashioned connection with a nice trap connected to a steel nipple, we could cut this with a Sawzall, but it's just as easy to loosen the nut where the tail piece from the sink ties in, and then that'll be loose, and when the sink is out of the way, we'll finish dealing with this threaded connection of this big trap. So here's the nut, here's a wrench. I always like to grab the nut as high as possible where there's a little bit sturdier to make sure we don't squeeze it out around. If you squeeze it out around, it won't come off the pipe, the thread, very easily. Okay, so that's disconnected. We're ready to remove the sink. Okay, so this sink came with the option of extra support feet in the front, which were connected to a towel bar or washcloth holder. But because we're demoed, these are going to fall away quite easily. But this was really a nice feature for the sink, and it made it an extra sturdy installation at the time. Okay, and just pick straight up, a little wiggle, and there you can see. Now look at this. Whoever installed the sink in the beginning, it must have been rocking on here a little bit. So he put this little piece of cardboard, take up that gap or that space, and stop it from wiggling. That's pretty resourceful, actually. And imagine it lasted about 70 years. Okay, the sink's gone. We're going to clean up the rest of this piping and plumbing, and we're going to start with the trap. And I'm going to get my wrench, and I'm going to grab it right here. And it should come apart pretty easily because they're dissimilar metals. We have a brass alloy here and probably a steel pipe behind there. 2 foot length will give me plenty of leverage. And we'll just pull up, and it actually came off quite simply. We'll catch the water, make a little adjustment on the wrench. There we go. Now we got it. And we'll finish it with a pair of channel locks. There we go. That's it. All right. Okay, now we got the drain out of the way. We got these two valves to screw out of here. We'll remove this old bracket that held up the sink, and we're going to get started on demoing the floor.